Hey there, my people. I am submitting for your perusal what I consider to be one of the Twilight Zone's more future venturing episodes. And by future venturing, I mean it's an episode that was released in 1964. However, it occurs in the futuristic year 2000. In this year, young adults must make a decision when they turn 19, and that's to either keep the face and body they were born with or undergo a transformation, picking a new you out of a book that have 12 numbered models for you to choose from. So what do you think happens when 18-year-old Marilyn has a problem making this decision when she is just simply days away from her 19th birthday? Well, my people, let's watch and see. For your viewing pleasure, I present to you the Twilight Zone episode titled Number 12 Looks Just Like You. The scene opens with Marilyn and her mom at the transformation facility. Marilyn's mom is looking at the post-it models while Marilyn sits curled up in a chair looking through a family photo album. Marilyn doesn't appear the least bit interested in this whole transformation process. Her mom says, "I think number 12 might suit you better," and she asks Marilyn what she thinks. Marilyn looks up with a sort of frown, and her mom says, "You weren't even listening to me." Marilyn apologizes, and her mom tells Marilyn that she doesn't understand her, telling her that most girls her age are excited when it comes time to pick a pattern, as they call it. She tells Marilyn that she hadn't even looked at the brochures that the Bureau sent over. Marilyn tells her mom that she looked at them, and her mom goes on to reminisce that she herself was so excited before her transformation was done, saying she couldn't sleep for nights. She says she finally chose number 12, saying that she guesses that's everybody's favorite. As Marilyn is just sitting and flipping through the album, her mom asks her, "Isn't she excited?" When Marilyn doesn't answer, she asks what she's looking at, and Marilyn says, "I'm looking at you, a picture of you before."
Yes, that's me, before my transformation. I was a sight, wasn't I?
Mother, I think you were beautiful.
Well, I certainly don't.
Am I very homely now?
And the mom says typically what parents say when they don't want to hurt their little one's feelings with the truth. Her mom said, "No, darling, not to me." And then her mom adds this, "But afterwards, you'll be beautiful." Peeps, which to me sort of negated what you just said. Then Marilyn asks, "If I didn't want the transformation, I wouldn't have to have it, would I?" Her mom responds, "Darling, what are you talking about? The transformation is the most marvelous thing that could happen to a person." Okay, y'all, is it me, or is she beginning to sound like some kind of a Stepford mama? And if you don't get the reference, Google Stepford Wives. Then Marilyn says, "Well, I can wait a little while, couldn't I?" Now, remember, peeps, this transformation happens when you turn 19, which for Marilyn is just a few days away. "Oh, you're just nervous," her mom says. Then her mom tells her what she needs is a glass of instant smile. Okay, something called instant smile. I'm almost scared to ask what that is. And her mom steps over to a device, push a button, and a server comes into the room. This server has the exact face and body of Marilyn's mother. The only way to tell these two people apart is the name stitched on their clothing. The server takes the order, leaves, and then Marilyn's mom turns to the poster of number 8. And she says to Marilyn, just think, very soon you can look like that. Well, apparently Marilyn is still talking funny, so they bring in her Uncle Rick to talk some sense into her, hoping that maybe he can get through.
I want to be transformed. I want to stay ugly.
Oh, you're not ugly. You're just...
Not beautiful.
After they said, Uncle Rick tells Marilyn she doesn't feel very well and what she needs is a nice cup of instant smile. Marilyn jumps up and says she's had a cup of instant smile. She tells him that she doesn't feel like smiling all the time. She says that sometimes she wants to cry or frown. Don't you understand, she whispers. Uncle Rick steps over to her and says this, Marilyn, you are a very sick girl. Peeps, did you just hear that? Her mom can't understand why she doesn't want the transformation, why she doesn't want to be quote-unquote beautiful. And Uncle Rick tells her she's very sick because she's telling him she's okay with herself the exact way she is. She tells him she doesn't want to smile all the time or be happy all the time. She doesn't want to be one of 23,000 chicks that all look and sound alike, even down to the color of their hair and in the styles they wear. She doesn't want to be so identical to hundreds and thousands of other chicks like her to the point where she'll have to wear her name sewn in her clothes for the entirety of her life. What I believe Marilyn is struggling to say is that she doesn't want to join this one size, one package definition of beauty and utopia. Peeps, what Marilyn is saying is that she wants to stay herself and be herself and figure her out as herself and by herself. And what does Rick, her family, say? You've got to be sick, very sick, to not want this utopia, this beautiful, idyllic world. Well, since the chat with Uncle Rick apparently didn't go over too well, they send her bestie in to try to talk some sense into her. Val says to Marilyn, don't you think you're being awfully silly? To which Marilyn responds, no. There's no law, is there? She asks. And Val responds by saying, it's not like it hurts. When they did mine, I didn't feel a thing. I know that, Marilyn says.
Well, you like the way I look, don't you?
I like you, Val. We're friends. I liked you before the transformation.
But you're missing the point.
But it's Val who's missing the point. She's missing the whole point of what Marilyn just said. Marilyn told her, I liked you before the transformation. We're friends. They've likely been friends all their lives for the past 18 years. With Val looking and acting like herself and Marilyn being herself. And now here they are. The strongest argument Val can offer for getting this transformation is that it's like getting a new hairstyle or new clothes. You just look better. I'll look like one of those drawings that the Bureau sends over, Marilyn says. But they're all beautiful, Val says. What's wrong with that? Marilyn responds, because it is wrong, Valerie. How will you know me? How will anyone know me? Peeps, she's crying out more than how will somebody know me because I look like all these other chicks. She's saying, how will somebody know me? How will somebody know the inside me? From all these other chicks with the exact same body and face. Peeps, she's crying out for her individuality. That's what she's talking about and fighting for, not to lose that. A mom can give birth to identical, not just simply identical twins, but identical quintuplets, identical 5 kids, 5 girls. But you best believe she's going to be able to tell those 5 little girls of her apart. By what? Their quirks, their strengths and weaknesses, their proclivities, how they walk, the inflection in their speech. I dare say by how they frown and smile and cry. Peeps, by their personalities, their selves. Marilyn is trying not to lose her self, her identity in this thing. That's what she's clutching so tight for. And what's so sad is that Val doesn't have the slightest clue what Marilyn is even talking about. That's the saddest part of this whole thing.
How'll you know me? I mean, how'll anyone know me? I don't want to look like everyone else, and I'm not going to let them change me. I won't let them change me. Please help me.
Well, when talking to Valerie didn't work, they sent her to see a doctor. Dr. Rex. At first, the doctor misunderstands the visit. He tells her mom not to worry, that Marilyn is just like the rest of them, and that it's their, meaning their generation, I guess, or the bureaucrats, it's their fault. We haven't given them a reason why they must wait until they're 19. She's looking at all the other women around her, all the pictures of the transformed girls, and then she has to look at herself in the mirror. From looking at beautiful creatures of body, face, and limb, stance, and carriage, then she looks at herself and she's horrified. I mean, this dude is actually saying this. She's asking herself, by comparison, Dr. Rex says, why should I be so hideous, awkward, oversized, and unbalanced? And he's going on and on, ending with, our Marilyn is tired of being a monster. And this is, I believe, the epitome of this society, this futuristic society of the year 2000, that anything other than what is their definition of beauty, of grace, of refinery, anything outside of their definition is hideous and monstrous. And of course, no sane or rational person would want to look like this and live like this any longer than they have to. This is a jacked up society, but it is a society that these people have agreed to live within. They agreed to this. Nobody threw a net over them and are dragging them off to these centers and making them change. At some point in time, this group of people decided this is how we are going to frame and live out our society. For whatever reason, they determined this is how we're going to do it. And nobody's disagreed.
I don't want to have the transformation.
Transformation has become a normal part of growing up.
What? Being like everyone else?
Dr. Rex asks her mom if this is true, and she says yes. That Marilyn never said anything about this prior to today. Dr. Rex asks Marilyn to tell him in her words what the problem is. Marilyn says she just doesn't want to change. Dr. Rex tells her that the transformation has become the normal part of growing up. It's a sign of maturity. And Marilyn says, being like everyone else? Then Dr. Rex tells her he'd like to conduct an examination. He has her to sit down near a machine, and he puts a clear cap type thing on her head. As he does so, he tells her that the transformation is not just beneficial from an aesthetic point of view, but it plays a key important role in psychological adjustment. Okay, peeps, you want to know what another word for psychological adjustment might be? How about giving the brain a good old scrubbing? Now this explains a lot between the brain bath during the transformation and the happy juice. These folks are constantly drinking at the least little twinge of unhappiness or a frown. They're floating around in a perpetual happy wonderland. You know what? I don't know, Sister Girl. I do not know how you are going to be able to get out of this with yourself intact. I don't know. After Marilyn is all hooked up, Dr. Reck turns the machine on and waits for the results. While waiting, the doctor asks Marilyn about her deceased father, asking specifically what he thought about the transformation. Marilyn's mom said he was initially opposed to the transformation, but he ultimately had it done. Dr. Rex asks Marilyn about her dad, specifically if he ever said that the transformation was bad. Marilyn said not really. She said her dad said it was tragic. Dr. Rex tells them that Marilyn's case was most unusual and more time for further examination was needed. Marilyn asks about the results of the test she just took, and Dr. Rex said that her general intelligence rating was quite high, her social adaptability was very good, her power of reasoning quite normal. And Marilyn asks him, then why can't I make up my own mind? Why force me to do something I don't want to do, she asked.
Nobody can make me do it.
No one has ever been forced to take transformation if he didn't want it.
But before Marilyn could breathe a real sigh of relief, Dr. Rex said this. You see, the problem is simple. We must discover why you don't want the transformation and then to make the necessary correction. Okay, you know what, peeps? See, I knew we were going to end up here. This was the only place for us to end up. The only place to end up. Oh, yeah. They're going to talk to you and they're going to assure you and they're going to pat your hand and pat your head and make you think this is your decision until you realize it's not. It was only ever going to be Marilyn's decision as long as her decision was transformation. The minute she started questioning it, the minute she made the determination, you know what? This ain't for me. I like me the way I am. I think I'm a beautiful person on the inside and out. And I am unique. I am not cookie cutter. I am unique. And that chick wanted that uniqueness. She wanted to keep it. It was worth everything to her. Everything. It was worth her going against her moms, her bestie, society, and the status quo. She was that determined to keep her individuality and her uniqueness. Unfortunately, though, she was greatly outnumbered with nary anyone to fight for her or with her. A valiant effort, yes, but likely a losing battle. When Dr. Rex couldn't make any headway with Marilyn, she was taken to Professor Sig. Okay, I'm not sure what this guy's a professor of, other than being a bit dark. And peeps, note how sterile this room is. It's like with each ensuing place this chick is taken to, it becomes all the more dark and sterile and more ominous and foreboding than the place before. At first, this Professor Sig is kind of nice, but that changes when Marilyn still balks at taking the transformation. Next, this Professor Sig tells her about the state of the world way back when and how scientists were charged with coming up with a solution to eradicate the world's problem. That, they determined, was injustice. After some time, they did come up with what they felt was the perfect solution: transformation. Now, everybody was beautiful. Everybody lived longer. Nobody succumbed to diseases or any other genetic problems. They no longer suffered. And nobody thought a bad thought about somebody else. Everybody was happy, happy, happy. But for Marilyn, all of this was at a cost. And a cost she wasn't willing to pay.
Have you ever read Shakespeare?
Who?
Or Keats or Shelley? Did you know that Dostoevsky was an epileptic? He was ugly, he was deformed, but he wrote about beauty.
This is enough.
Then Professor Sig slams his hand down on the table in anger, telling Marilyn that her introducing inappropriate conversation, okay, you know what? He didn't say inappropriate conversation, but I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get in trouble. But it's a 4-letter word that starts with SM and ends with a T. Her introducing this into the interview will not help her case. And again, like I said, he slams his hand down on the table in anger. Okay, you know what? I think somebody didn't get his little cup of happy juice with his lunch. And then just as quickly, he's all smiley, like he just got caught dropping his facade for a moment. And then after all this, everything this chick has gone through since first thing in the morning till right now, from one stage to another, from one room to another, Marilyn asked the $64,000 question because she just can't get it. Her mind cannot translate something that's supposed to be a choice after hours and hours and certain levels of browbeating. I don't care how nicely the browbeating went. Browbeating with a pillow is still browbeating. She still cannot figure out, why are we still talking about this when I have a choice? When this transformation business has always been put out there as a choice, why am I still here? Why are we still talking about this?
Force me to do something I don't want to do.
But for your own good. Why, yes.
Why are you trying to force me to do something I don't want to do for your own good? That's what Professor Sig says. We are doing this for your own good. For your good, and in reality as well, for the good of society, because we cannot have untransformed folk running around with the transformed people. Oh no, we can't have that. It's all or nothing. Everybody transform and nobody transform. They created a utopia and you are a crack in it that has to be repaired. I'm sorry for you, girl. I am sorry. Unless there is some underground folk who are the non-transformed as well, you stuck in this. There's no way out for you. There is no way out. You can talk and talk and talk, but at some point these people are going to be done talking to you. And they're going to bum rush you and snatch you up. And they're going to do this. First, they chatted with you, hoping for your compliance. But for every single thing they bring to you, you bounce back or you come back stronger. And it's getting to the point they don't have an argument. And so Brother Man fell back on for your own good because he had no other argument to give you as to why you can't make a choice. Even Dr. Rex said the chick has high intelligence, high social interaction capabilities. There's nothing wrong with her, but you still gonna fix her. Well, they finally confine Marilyn to the hospital. Her bestie Valerie comes by and the visit doesn't go well. Marilyn is brutally honest and brutally open with Val in a way I doubt she's ever been with her friend before. But this has been a heck of a day for Marilyn. This sister has been taken through the ringer and she is just begging for somebody to understand what she's saying, to understand where she's coming from. In talking about her father with Val, Marilyn says this: "Can't any of you understand? I loved him. I cared about him. He was good and he was kind and he cared about me. Not what I wore, not the way I looked, but what I thought, what I felt. And what's more important, he cared about himself and his dignity as a human being." And then she tells Val that her dad didn't expire in the Gadamia incident, like everyone thought and like everyone had been told. He unalived himself when they took away his identity and he had no reason to go on living. And what was Val's response to Marilyn's gut-wrenching admission? This heart and soul's declaration of hers? And what was Val's response, peeps?
I just don't understand you, Marilyn.
Valerie, can't you feel anything?
I feel good. I always feel good.
And there you have it. Valerie saying, "I always feel good." Valerie has no idea what Marilyn's saying. She can't even comprehend what Marilyn is saying or feeling. And Marilyn comes to a sadly deep revelation, and that's there's nobody there to help her. Nobody there to save her. So Marilyn does the only thing she can do, and that's try to make a break for it. This is her last grasp and cry for freedom. She runs into an orderly push in a gurney with a newly transformed woman who only gives Marilyn an empty smile. Marilyn runs down a corridor and hides against a wall as a nurse walks by, with the same lifeless, hollow smile on her face, not even noticing Marilyn. Then Marilyn runs into the transformation room. There's nowhere else for her to go. She's all out of options. Now we find Dr. Rex, Marilyn's mom, and Valerie standing in the hall. Dr. Rex says, "Occasionally a young person has difficulty adjusting to the idea, but we've improved methods since the old days, and now it always turns out well in the end. It never fails." As he barely finishes the statement, we see Marilyn, the newly transformed Marilyn. Marilyn says to her mom, "What do you think?" To which her mom responds, "You're beautiful, Marilyn, just beautiful." Everyone's grinning happily as Marilyn steps over to a full-length mirror. She looks at herself and smiles admiringly. She turns and says this, "And the nicest part of all, Val, is I look just like you." Here we have Rod Serling with a parting statement I found to be quite befitting. "Portrait of a young lady in love," he says, "with herself."
Improbable? Perhaps. But in an age of plastic surgery, bodybuilding, and an infinity of cosmetics, let us hesitate to say impossible.
Well, there you have it, my peeps. And again, this is one of those things I really love about Rod Serling in the Twilight Zone. It's not all scary or twisty or homey even. Sometimes it's a bit futuristic. This is a 1964 program that I feel can speak to us all today. A cautionary tale, if you will, of the beauty to be found in individuality, in one's uniqueness, quirks, warts, and all, and how we all should fight for our individuality, many times fighting against our own selves, against so easily conforming. And peeps, I'm not talking about overthrowing anything or marching or carrying on. That's really not my point. I'm talking about you with you. I'm just saying discover you, then live out you. Not being hurtful or hurting. Just you. Okay, my people, there you have it for now. As always, I love being with you, and I appreciate you all much, much more than you will ever know. Be kind to yourselves, be sweet to each other. Until next time.